Greetings, foolish mortals, and welcome to the Tower. I am the VO Wizard, and today I'm going to teach you how to be talking like walking. Let's make some magic. How we doing, everybody? Alright, Walken is one of the most requested voices of all time, and everybody's got one. Having said that, today I'm going to teach you my Walken. If you are one of the special few who does not have a Christopher Walken impression, this is a bonus episode for you. First step is the same as in every single lesson. Acquire the character. If ever there was a character on this earth, it's Walken.
You have to kind of lose yourself in it. You have to remember that all
As he clearly has.
Yes. You got to lean into it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I usually have you watch interviews to study the characters, and there are a fair few with Walken, but I think better source material for him is watching other comedians do Walken, or watching Walken on SNL. That's how we all came up. He's also been in a million movies, so if somehow you've missed him in cinema so far, just do a quick Google search and look for movies. He's been in Pulp Fiction, Deer Hunter, Hairspray, The Rundown. He's been in a lot of movies. As I said before, watching other comedians do Walken is a pretty good way to acquire the character. Maybe just kind of keep a little bit of distance off of it. Don't let their Walken invade what your Walken will be. Still base yours off of the original. But two excellent sources to go for as far as comedians who do Walken are Jay Mohr and Kevin Pollak. They're two of the ones who I know who have been doing it the longest. They're who I watched when I was younger, and they both have a really solid Walken. Very different Walkens, but a very solid Walken.
Your dog was in here a moment ago. That dog had no tail. What happened?
I've been searching for over an hour for the bastards who brought me. It's clear to me now. They're gone.
Also, don't forget the face swap app. I will never, ever stop telling you to put other people's faces on your face digitally. That is such a fun way to try to get into character and just start messing with the voice early. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves, I just want to break down the character makeup of what makes Walken. He's got some very signature vibes about him. He's goofy, he's eccentric, he's not too modern, he's kind of classic. He's more old-timey than he is, but he's also very intense. When you're watching the movies that he's in, or the comedians, or the interviews, keep your eyes out for when he is especially classic, or intense, or eccentric.
I told you a secret. Then I put my finger there, and I said, shh.
Next thing to consider after the general character is physicality. After absorbing the character as much as you have been, and after watching Walken and different things, you should be getting a pretty good and clear idea of how he moves his body when he speaks and what his face does. For body movement, probably the most important thing to think about and remember is the shifting that he does. He moves his body around a bit like a swaggery salesman. Something that he doesn't do all the time, but something that does definitely mark Walken, is keeping your arms at about 90 degrees, palms open facing each other like that, kind of like a Trump, this little Trump accordion right there, but a little further apart, and then these shoulders shift backwards. They move back. You don't puff your chest out, you move your shoulders back, like that.
You got the moves. I'll give you that.
Like I usually say, it's not all the time, but it is sort of a defensive backwards motion like that. Push these back. Wow. You're talking to me all wrong.
What'd you say? Oh, yeah. You're talking to me all wrong. It's the wrong tone.
Also, don't be afraid to put a little head wiggle in there and keep things loose and open as you're doing that, not stiff. It's more like a wow. He's a weird dude. He makes a lot of weird motions. He's not moving all the time, and his body does certainly do other things, but that is his main movement. The backwards, he's shifting like that, kind of moving his body around. You'll see other things that he does. Feel free to mimic those all you want. As authentic as you can get it, go for broke. Now that you got the main block of the body done, you want to think about the face. For facial quirks, you're going to want to move between a series of squints and eyebrow raises in quick succession. Also, don't be afraid of winking, or nearly winking. Also, head nods and shakes do go a long way for just those little added effects.
The only way to know where you stand with someone is to look into their eyes, right?
This is tragic news. News for the lactose intolerant.
Add it all together, and these occur while swaying and shrugging, like I've been showing you. It's a lot of movement, more so than a lot of other impressions that we do, so be aware that your body is moving, but keep it as subtle as you can so you don't look like you're having a standing seizure. What comes after physicalities? Pacing. Walken's pacing, for lack of a better term, is completely erratic. But I dare say there is a rhythm to it.
Christopher, I can't believe you made it.
Enough of these ferns lodge themselves down your throat. You choke. You watch those nature documentaries on the cable?
I've said this with others. I think even Owen Wilson, you will feel it. The more you acquire that character in step one, you'll feel it. You'll see him saying it, and you'll feel how he speaks. It's not really a formula that I can give you, but it's the weirdest phenomenon. The more you do it, the more you practice, the more it feels innately formulaic. You'll know right when to enunciate different words. You'll know exactly when to pause. You know, especially, when to whisper. The main key to this is just chopping all of your phrases into smaller pieces inside of a sentence and stopping on pauses a bit longer than you normally would. Pacing plays an absolutely massive part of the Christopher Walken impression, so do not skip mastering this step. The secret I like to teach as far as pacing goes is to mimic their pace in your voice, like I just did before. Use his phrasing, use his pace from what all you've seen. You don't have to do his voice. You don't have to do anything yet. But keep all of the inflection, keep all of the different things that you might do in your voice in his pace. The comfier you get practicing that way is what's going to determine how easy it is moving in with the actual voice. I have learned a lot of impressions in this life, and I will tell you that this way is going to get you where you want to be a lot sooner and cleaner than just doing dry runs. Physicalities and pacing are done. You know what that means. Voice. Okay, there is a lot to do for this voice. Starting off, and probably the most notable feature of this voice, is the regional accent. You got a nice, rich, creamy Texan dialect when you're talking like Matthew McConaughey, so you got to put that drawl on. Walken is from New York, so you're going to have to adopt a New York dialect. Hey, I'm Walken here! I'm so sorry. If you don't have a New York dialect, pick one up. There are lots of points of study all over the internet. But listen to Walken as he speaks and pick out the New York in his conversation.
You feel like you're the only normal person in a school full of nut jobs.
Just a quick little focus of study to help you get into New York is the dropping of those R's, like in New York. So study New York, study Walken, compare, contrast, imitate. After the regional dialect, you should probably focus on throat placement. Where are you making the voice? Walken, like so many of the other great voices, is based in the throat. You want to start that sound back here. You want it to be bigger and resonant. Like Owen Wilson way up here. Whoa! Walken back here. Whoa! A lot of the growls that he does, a lot of big sounds that he makes, like these, are coming straight from back here. Big throat noises. That throat voice is really going to help you when you start to growl as Walken.
He's the king of the jungle. Huge mane out there.
Now that you're starting the sound from here, now that you're using the throat, pinch that up just a little bit. Limiting that air does two things. You're starting it still in the throat, but it helps enhance that rich flavor back here. You can hear it pinch just a little bit, and it also helps you sound a bit older. You don't want to skip out on that rich, muffled sound. Another point you'll really want to focus up on for Walken is sound extensions. When he draws out his sounds, just like Owen Wilson did. Owen Wilson lesson in the description. Like I say, in every lesson, it's not an every word thing, so pay attention, but it really will help cement that authenticity. Another thing he's got going on, I told you there was a lot to this voice. Stop sounds. When stopping your sounds, be sure to breathe out a little bit on the end, just to give it that puff. Like Owen Wilson's What Are You Talking About? That t on the end of T, but do it way more consistently as Walken.
The middle of Africa. He's so big. He's so hot. He doesn't want to move.
You can do it on most sounds too. I even did it on the N in Walken. Way more consistently as Walken. You'll hear it right at the end there. You're crazy. We'll never make it there on time. If you know Metallica, think of James Hetfield. Every time he sings a phrase, he ends it with that ooh-wah. It's not so dramatic as that, but definitely keep that in mind for the idea of all of your stop sounds. I'll lump this into the same step, but when you're using those T, L, D, N sounds, I think those are the only ones, really let your tongue rest on the back of your top two teeth. When you let it hang there, you get those sounds like he does. The air passes around your tongue and it comes out, like when you're talking like Walken. I like my turkey to be nice and fried. Good luck making it all the way down the street. I told you I never smelt a rat. Those were all exaggerations for your benefit, but really focus on those sounds to add to authenticity. He makes all of those.
Making trouble. Still, nothing.
Also, while we're on that step, pay attention to transition sounds like L to D in the word wild. Wild. You can really hear that effect when he draws out his words. When those sounds are drawn out, you really get a sense for him. I'll say the most important sound is the emphasis, but that's kind of hard. It's all super important, but I'll say the emphasis is what everybody remembers or what everybody seems to imitate.
I feel like a little boy who's lost his first tooth. Put it under his pillow waiting for the tooth fairy to come.
It feels like there is no rhyme or reason on when to oomph on a word, but there definitely is a wrong way. Hey there, how are you doing today? Instead, hey there, how are you doing today? Watch, practice, you'll nail it. I believe in you. Coming around the corner to home base, one of the last things to consider is the latch phrase. You really kind of have your pick of the litter here with Walken, as long as it's something longer than wow or hey. You really want to pick a fuller phrase that has more of the sounds inside that we've been talking about and more of the dynamics of his voice. You could always use the tried and true that everybody loves from Joe Dirt. You're talking to my boy. All wrong. It's the wrong tone. You do it again, I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
Hey! You're talking to my guy all wrong. It's the wrong tone. Do it again, I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.
My favorite one, the one that I use, is from a movie when I was very little he was in called Puss in Boots. I have fond memories. It was my very first Walken movie. It was where I started learning to do the voice and watching him over and over again. He plays Puss, he's a cat, and he keeps turning from the cat into Christopher Walken. The line is, "Get me some boots in a drawstring bag. I can't stay without boots."
Get me some boots.
The part that I use as my latch phrase is, "I can't stay without boots." It's got a lot of the vocal dynamics in there. It's got the whisper. It's everything that I need in a latch phrase. The last step, I promise, and I can't believe I didn't put this in the last video, is practice, practice, practice. You're never going to get anywhere doing any of these voices without a ton of practice. So just stay in that voice. Do it as much as you can. Watch these videos over and over again if you need to, or keep watching them. Keep watching those videos. Keep watching the movies, the clips, the comedians. Keep them in your brain. Practice on friends, practice on neighbors, practice in the mirror, practice all you need. Just keep practicing. Stay in that voice. Sometimes with Walken, it's hard to stop the voice. You're going to be in it all day long.
I mean, I'll walk around the house sometimes for a couple of hours speaking only as Christopher Walken, not realizing I'm doing it until the cat passes out from fear.
Mother, I specifically asked for 2 tureens of gravy. If I have to ask one more time, I'm going to lose it and throw the gravy boat out the window. Practice, rest, practice, drink water, practice. If we're done talking like Walken, let's get out of here and go back to the tower. Poof! Thank you so much for taking the whole lesson and sticking with me all the way to the end. If you like these lessons, please hit the like button down there and also consider subscribing to the channel. It helps me keep these candles on way more than you think it does. Feel free to share this video with your friends and on your social media. There's a share button right down here. Scroll on down to the comments section and let me know how your Walken is shaping up after the lesson. And also, throw some suggestions down there on who I should teach next. I take them all into consideration. Click on this video for some different impressions, or click on this playlist for the rest of these lessons. And remember, if you want to see some cheap tricks, you can go anywhere. But if you want to know some real magic, come watch The Wizard.
I'll stab you in the face with a soldering iron.